and call the meeting to order at 4:32 p.m. And before we get in to anything, I just thought it might be appropriate and good to do like a moment of silence. We have two things actually. Recently in Kent lost two great civil servants, being Susie Rundle and most recently yesterday morning, Bonnie Jo Sharon, both of whom were tremendously impactful to our town in their civil service and really a model for our community. So
may I add Jim Sammartini to that?
Please add Jim as well. Thank you. So let's just take a moment to honor them. It's so nice to hear birds in the background when you take those moments. Sometimes they can start to want to go on for a long time. And then the second thing that I think is, of course, on all of our minds today is the terrible, tragic violence in Texas. And, I think that also makes me very mindful of the significance of our task and what some of our recommendations are. So, if we could have a moment to remember and, just to be in the pain of that moment. Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving into our agenda, as usual. Are we okay to move on? Are we, anyone? Okay. The first item is to amend if necessary and then accept the agenda. And does anyone have any amendments to make to the agenda? And
excuse me, I had a few questions in regard to the local businesses.
So when we, does it fit under any of these agenda items, like the discussion of the report?
It's a question that I wanted to ask for clarification purposes.
Is it part of the report?
Or
does it need its own? Because we're just doing the agenda at this moment. So if we need to add an agenda item, we can.
It's just a question. I don't think it's gonna, involve that much time.
Is it a question that would be appropriate to discuss when we're discussing the report, or
Sure.
is it a different? Okay.
It would fit in, I think so.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
And a second. Thank you, Barbara. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. And if any are opposed, and seeing none, that motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 18th, 2002. And I know that Ruth has not had an opportunity to review the minutes, but have the rest of you had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, are there any amendments needed to those minutes? And if none, then a motion, please, to approve those minutes. Thanks, Barbara. And a second.
Second.
Thanks, Glenn. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. And any opposed? And any abstaining? And we have one abstention, and that is Ruth. And the motion carries.
I just want to, I have a comment on the minutes. I didn't get an attachment.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why.
Okay.
But did you have a chance to read them?
Yes, I went to
Okay.
Google Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think as fast as you did.
I have them here if you want to.
Thank you.
They're approved.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is public comment. Please let the record reflect that there are no members of the public here today. And then moving into correspondence, as noted in the minutes, we did talk about the fact that we received some feedback from the fire department about the stair chair. And I was unaware because I hadn't received an email until after our meeting that Bonnie Donzella, who had written correspondence, wanted it to be read into the record. So I want to take a moment now and read it into the record. This correspondence was sent on Friday, May 13th. Maybe that's why it didn't get to me. Connie, I was watching the May 11th recording of the Arpa Needs Assessment Committee and saw that you stated that the fire department has purchased a stair chair. You stated you saw a post on Facebook. There was a post on Facebook with a picture at our Monday nights yearly training where we train on all our equipment. Nowhere in that post did it say training in the new stair chair. This would be because we don't have a new stair chair. The chair we have is from 2013. With a life expectancy of 7 to 10 years, it has reached maturity, and hence why we asked for the money to purchase a new one. I am saddened that such an assumption was made from a simple Facebook post sharing how we train at KVFD. If you have any questions or concerns in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at the number below. My cell is attached to my hip at all times. I'm requesting that this email be read into your records so that the misinformation that was presented by you to your community and ultimately the public can be corrected. Bonnie Donzella, Ambulance Chief. And so as we noted in our meeting last week, I did make a mistake. I regret that assumption. You learn from these things and occasionally you get caught out on them, but I deeply regret it. And it's clear that they did not purchase a new stair chair, when they had asked us for money for a new stair chair. So we have restored that recommendation to our report. And I did send back correspondence to Bonnie apologizing for the assumption and letting her know that we had added the stair chair back into our report. Good. Okay, old business report. So we have a draft report and it's time to discuss it.
So my first question is how much wordsmithing is actually going to be allowed? Because I started reading it and I'm like wordsmithing, and then I'm thinking, maybe I'm changing the tenor of the report. I don't know. It seemed to be, it was more than grammatical. It was just wordsmithing. So I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Why don't we just go through it?
Are you wondering how much we want to do? And do you have an opinion on that?
Well, my broadest opinion is the fact that the cover page says that this is an assessment and a recommendation. And then within the report, the word recommendation is utilized umpteen times. And I'm thinking that the report would be more succinct if we took all that out, all the times that we say, we recommend, and just state what it is that we want, because the concern is the more often we put in the word we recommend, that's another opportunity for the people who are going to be looking at it later to say, I don't like that recommendation. I'm not going to go there, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that.
I'm not hearing Barbara very well. It's coming across as really mumbled for some reason.
Yeah,
well, she's far and wearing a mask.
I'm sorry.
I can point the computer towards her. We can even put it in the middle of the table. I won't be on screen, but I don't mind doing that if that gets you closer.
How about if I just say it and then you paraphrase it? quick so that she can hear it.
Yeah, Patricia, the issue here, the suggestion from Barbara is that by not repeating the word we recommend, or the phrase we recommend, that, you know, we're presenting the report as one integral set of recommendations, and, you know, that doesn't open up this, you know, the opportunity to take certain recommendations out. I don't know that I noticed it myself. Did anyone notice that? And if not, then maybe as we work our way through the document and, you know, we find the instances, we can.
Well, one of the
look.
examples is the recommended application is attached. Well, that to me opens it up for them to look at the application and say, no, I don't like this, let's change that, let's
So
change
it's
this.
the application is attached.
Right, but that sort of thing all the way through.
Right, yeah.
And then my other global observation is, and I mentioned this last week, and it is obviously it's just my opinion, but in a document such as this, we need to get rid of we and us and refer to ourselves as the committee, period, across the board. None of this we and us all, and that's just my opinion, but it just, that's what I found myself doing, is crossing those off, rewording it, and rewording a lot of the places where it says we recommend, just getting rid of that.
Let's look at that as we go through it. I think those are good points. Okay, so should we just start going? Does
Yeah.
anyone else have any overarching? Okay. So I wrote the first part, so I won't have comments on my own beginning part, and I welcome yours.
Let's see.
It's the first half of that page, the introduction.
In the introduction, the second paragraph, I wonder if we have a few too many communities. I'm not sure of the difference between community inclusiveness, representation, and participation. Could that be pared down to one? The word community restoration, I'm not sure is the right word. It implies that somehow the community was like torn apart and we need a restoration. Maybe it could be something that has less potential for misunderstanding, like community well-being or something like that. And I wasn't sure what you meant by community service as the fourth. Well, we have two for us as the fifth community thing.
Okay, so how about, first of all, how about instead of community participation, public participation?
That's better.
Okay, I'll community, by community service, I meant us serving the community.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. And I
Civic
was thinking
service.
that, do we need to say that about ourselves?
I feel it quite profoundly, and think that the more we say it whenever we're working for the municipal government of Kent, the better. But that's just me.
Well, I think we all share that, or else we wouldn't have devoted so much time to this.
And I wouldn't put it in the report if I didn't think we all in this room shared that, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I agree with you, Patricia.
Okay.
I don't think we're here to talk about what we've done.
Well, just what we hope to do, though. I mean,
Well, but
Okay.
it's almost.
So-
We volunteered, and it goes without saying.
some people don't volunteer in order to serve their community.
Yeah, but I agree.
I'll just
with that.
put that out there. So, okay,
all
so
right, how are we gonna?
take off community service. Instead of under 3, community participation, public participation. What can we say about our effort in our first 3 classes to address harm that was experienced due to COVID that is said in a different way besides community restoration. So how else can we say? I mean, should we just say, repairing harm? Or I think that
public participation.
because if we weren't guided by that, we would have jumped straight to infrastructure and blown the whole lot on that.
I mean, it could be the well-being of those who experienced economic harm. Or, maybe it doesn't need community again as a,
You can say economic restoration. I don't know.
Economic restoration or restoration of harm? I don't really think it's that, economic restoration, are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
economic restoration.
Economic restoration, taking off
Okay.
community service. So now there really only are 4 unless there are 3. I consider inclusiveness to be different from participation because we didn't have complete inclusiveness in our participation, and yet strove to be inclusive in our look. Those things mean 2 different things in the nonprofit world right now.
I would say we had some inclusiveness with people telling us what they wanted. I don't know. Seems to me that people were out there.
You mean in the focus groups?
Focus groups, just people who have said, I need something.
Should we say community inclusiveness or, take one of those 2 words and say community inclusiveness and public participation? Does that help make the list more concise? And then
Okay.
we're done with this sentence?
All
Okay.
right, so let's
Okay.
read it. What does it read like now?
Okay. All right, it reads, throughout, committee members were guided by the principles and values of transparency, community inclusiveness and public participation, and economic restoration.
What might be missing is some sort of forward looking statement. Like when I was thinking about it, and I'm sure all of you were, I was thinking about the future as well as the past, and what could we do to be better prepared for these kinds of things in the future, or to better supply our community with resources that they could count on if something like that. So I wondered if we could add something about forward thinking.
How about just number 4 and future preparedness?
That's good.
Okay, all right. Let's go.
So I circled in the next paragraph, we're talking about the support for family, friends, frontline workers, the municipal leaders, and I circled municipal leaders, and I said, really? Because I didn't hear anybody talking about how they were so supportive of the municipal leaders, but maybe I just didn't hear it.
It's in the survey responses.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. But there were a lot of comments about how people felt
Mhm.
the Kent, that the town of Kent responded in a really proactive and good way to the
And,
pandemic.
the next sentence or the last sentence of it, where you're talking about the survey, and you're saying 40% of individuals and businesses this committee surveyed. I just put the word that in front of this, that this committee survey, because you do talk about other surveys later on. And I just think that makes it more specific to the survey that we release.
That's fine.
Right, and in the first sentence, are we going to say in the
I
course
took out
of our
we.
assessment, the committee?
The committee,
Yeah.
and I took
Where
out.
are we?
our-
I'm sorry, it's, where are we?
So the first sentence, in the course of our assessment, the committee
Uh-huh.
was inspired.
The committee was inspired.
And then the word our comes out in the next line. And our committee, I think, can
Yeah.
stay. Or the committee.
Mm.
You want that?
It just,
No.
yeah, it just reads differently when you refer to it as an entity instead of us.
Yeah.
I have a, well, I have a comment on that part that Barbara was just referencing,
Mhm.
where, okay, while some people in Kent did not experience financial harm directly attributable to COVID, whether from loss of employment, medical, or COVID-related expenses, more than 40% of the individuals and businesses this committee surveyed, 106 of 264 respondents reported losses, added expenses between 1,000 to 10,000. I had a problem with that part there, the 40% of the individuals and businesses.
106 is 40% of 264.
But that's not proven.
Yes, it is. You can go back to the survey if you like to count the people who responded in each of those categories of,
That's from the
losses.
survey. That's an oral opinion.
No, it is a response to a survey, which is a written.
It's not verified. It's not vetted and it's not verified, is it?
No, but
But
we're
they
saying it is
reported.
because 106 actual people. That's all we're
reported,
saying.
Right.
that
And we're not
they-
saying they did.
They
We
responded.
didn't verify,
They
but they reported, so self-reported. Okay, so this is what we can't say anything more or less.
Right.
Than
Well, see,
that.
that's why I had a problem with that, because the way it's, I interpreted that as a fact, and when in reality, it hasn't been demonstrated.
No. All we're saying is, it has been demonstrated. 106 people responded to the survey.
The 264,
They had-
106
Exactly.
said,
They've
they-
responded and they said that they've been harmed.
Right.
yes.
That's yet to be proven though.
They're saying it. We're not saying they were harmed.
Okay,
We're
well, see,
saying,
that's how when the selectmen look at that, I think they're gonna question that. I think they're gonna say to themselves, is this true or is this not true?
Well, if we were attesting to the truth that they actually were harmed, then the sentence would say that this committee surveyed lost between 1,000 and 10,000. So we did not take that. We're not saying this is the verified fact that they lost this. We are saying, we asked them, you asked us to ask them, and we asked them, and they said this.
Yeah, we're just saying that they
They
reported.
reported. Well, like I said, I looked at that and I read the whole thing through, but struck out at me. And I looked at that and I said to myself, because it gives me the impression that that is a fact.
I think the key word here is reported. These people who were surveyed reported. We're not
They stated,
attesting to,
they stated that.
stated report, whatever. We're not attesting to that. We're just saying that's what they said. They gonna want to know what the results of the survey were.
Right, they didn't ask us to come up with our own opinion. They asked us to conduct a needs assessment. And so when we went out to the people and we asked them, this is what they said.
Well, I can see what you're saying, but when I looked at that and when I took into consideration that $100,000 is being set aside for individual residents that were harmed by the pandemic, to me, that just carried more weight. That's how I interpreted that. And that's why I, after I, you know, that's you know, that stood out, that part there.
We will have the opportunity to have a conversation with the selectmen, I assume, when we present it. And we can, you know, make sure they understand, because that's what you're concerned. They're gonna.
I did. I think that you know, they're going to look at that and that sentence there, and it gives the impression that there is 40% of the people had a loss.
See, I don't read it that way. I read it as 40% that's responded.
Said they did.
And
All we can do is tell the results of the survey.
it's always struck me that, I mean, that is the primary reason why I always was
Well, like I
very
said, I
adamant
mean, if
about
everybody
setting
else
aside
feels
money for-
comfortable with the way that says, then so be it. I mean, we're parsing everything here, but you know, that to me,
So what
that's-
would you want to say?
Well, okay, some people in Kent did not experience financial, or while some people did directly attributable, whether from employment and more. Okay, 40% of the individuals and businesses in the committee survey expressed concern that they did suffer a loss.
That is not what they did. They did not express concern. We asked them, did you experience a loss?
And they reported that they did.
Yes, so they didn't express concern that they experienced a loss. They told us they had a loss. We did not verify it, but we were asking to get a sense of what the needs of the community were. And that's, you know, I mean, this is why, you know, this idea that the people of Kent did not experience financial harm, you can poke some holes in it based on what we heard. I mean, you might be able to say, you know, you could say, well, 60% of our survey respondents reported that they did not experience a loss. 40% did. A sizable chunk of the survey respondents said that they had a direct financial, economic harm that they experienced due to COVID.
Well, you see, the way I look at it, and others have looked at it the same, is that people were given economic stimulus, they were given paycheck protection, the paycheck protection program, there were other increased unemployment. So, you know, there's evidence that people were given aid. So to say that 40% of the people were not suffered a tremendous loss.
We're not saying,
a lot of people are gonna question that.
would it help if it said, while some people blah, 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 survey results indicate that 40% of individuals and businesses report losses of one? Would that make you feel better
I think
about
that
it?
makes more sense, Patricia, to word it that way.
Well, then I would
Personally, I
recommend
think
that
so.
while some people in Kent did not experience financial harm, come out then. Because I had my doubts about putting that part of the sentence in, and I did it as a concession, knowing that we didn't have universal agreement in this room.
Because I think, once
I
the
don't-
selectmen look at that, I think they're gonna get hung up on that.
I hope they will. That is part of the assessment that we did. Part of the assessment that we did was we found that there might be some need out there that was unmet by, other aid, which is certainly part of the application process. We're not, if nobody is experiencing a windfall as a result of our recommendations here, our process is carefully designed to help those in need. Selectmen should know that we ask people, and a substantial proportion of our survey respondents were more motivated to answer the survey because they had experienced economic harm, reported that they experienced some economic harm.
Is your concern that this is not truthful?
No, I don't think that, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it remains to be seen.
Right. Well, I think
It remains to be
to be
seen.
seen as to who applies and
And what would be wrong with saying, while some people in Kent did not experience financial harm directly attributed to COVID, survey results indicate that 40% of the individuals and businesses that responded, 106 of 107 in parens, reported losses of between $1,000 and $10,000. Would that be okay, Joe, and everyone else?
And I think to be consistent, what we have to say is they did not report experiencing financial harm, because we can't know whether or not they didn't experience it.
I think that.
Just trying
that
to
we should
find
be
a way
general.
to say it
That whole part.
because it's true and to make Joe comfortable with it.
Right, but they did not report experiencing financial harm, which I don't think changes the way that people will interpret the sentence, but we don't know.
Right, so I think it should just be general, a general statement to cover all that, and like the 40% and the specific amounts, I would be more general in covering that. 106 of the 264 respondents, that can be proven just by looking at the survey.
Right, so we could say we found that a fair proportion of survey respondents reported economic harm in the area of $1,000 to more than $10,000, while a slightly bigger proportion reported experiencing no harm. I mean, it's
really in
what the
weeds here,
survey
guys.
is.
Yeah.
The whole idea of this
Getting-
is to get a little bit of an introduction in, and
I think this is fact.
I think it is too. I think it should be good.
Yeah.
Make the 40%. The
It's
40%
40%.
is only indicative of the number of people who responded
Exactly.
versus the total number of people that responded. That's all that.
It's a fact. It's right there. They'll say it in the survey. I don't see where the selectmen would have problem with it.
We're not talking about 40% of everybody in Kent. We're only talking about 40% of the people that responded to the survey.
I mean, if you read it carefully, it says what it should say. I'm not, I don't think the selectmen will take issue with it. It is what it is. 106 people answered that on the survey. There's no argument there to be made.
We're not saying, Joe, that they're all deserving. We're not putting any of our own opinions. We're just fact. 40% of those surveyed said.
Well, as I say, I mean, I read the whole report over, and specifically that one part there, that kind of jumped out at me, because it gives it, as I said before, it gives me the impression that that's factually It's stated, and that all these people suffered the loss, and 40% of them, no less, which is almost 50%. So,
40% of those who responded. We're not talking about the town, only.
106 people.
well, okay. Like I said, I mean, I think that is gonna stand out, and then that's going to, rather than dwell on that one part, make this a flowing document.
Would it help if you put 106 respondents and then put the 40% in the parens?
I would just leave out 40%. It doesn't need to be,
Oh, I think
in
that's
there.
key in a survey.
It's the mathematical equation.
No, but the 40% is important.
No, I think it is too.
Right.
It's not
Okay,
something
I-
to,
It's been more than half an hour and we are in
On
the
third
third
paragraph.
paragraph of
Yeah.
this document. I don't know.
Let's
if we
have a
need to
consensus
vote
here, or
or-
not a vote, but just I think it's okay as it is.
I think it's.
I think you just had the word that.
I think it's okay as is.
Okay.
And Joe, if the selectmen do, we'll say that you.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, if everybody else feels comfortable with that, so be it.
Okay,
So the next paragraph, I was thinking that in front of the word people and in front of the word community members, we add the word some. Qualify it so it doesn't intend to imply that all, just some.
sure.
And then maybe instead of using the word people, you could use the word residents.
I'm sorry, where are
There are
you?
more
The
than,
fourth paragraph.
Next paragraph.
People.
Financial impacts some residents
Some
in the
residents.
community experience and are supposed to.
should we use residents if our survey was more than just residents, if it included people who didn't live here but worked here?
I don't know, that was just the,
I don't
that was
mind,
my
but
wordsmithing, I told you.
Okay.
All right, just how
Got
about
nuts.
some in the Kent community?
Some
Meaning
in.
They work here or live
there you
here.
go,
Yeah.
some.
Just leave it at that.
Okay, good.
Some in the Kent community experiencing resulting from anxiety and grief, children in the Kent community.
And then again, you're gonna have to put some for
Some children.
children in the.
In line with that, I sort of felt community members feel isolated and disengaged. They do not have a good sense of what is happening in the community or how to get involved. I thought that should be tempered somewhat. I know it's drawn from the focus group with residents of 2 people, but those 2 were brand new to Kent, and it's too sort of broad.
Yeah.
You know,
Some community members feel isolated and disengaged.
there's some,
How about without a good sense, without?
yeah,
Okay, there we go.
Yep.
I mean, remember that in this introduction, part of what we hope to do is set the tone that is going to make the selectmen agree with our recommendations too. So, so I don't want to walk it back so much that it seems kind of banal. But
Welcome to my club, Connie.
right. Well, I was channeling you, Patricia, when I wrote this. Okay, but I don't mind the sums, and I think that I think those are all good amendments.
The
Can we
next is
move it?
After the introduction, which
back to.
yeah, we did that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to go.
I know, but Patricia has a
Oh,
comment.
sorry, go ahead. Patricia.
yeah, I was thinking maybe the introduction should float more in the page and add a page break before you begin overview of ARPA. In fact, I think that for all of the sections, I would do page breaks before the overview, before methodology, and before recommendations. It's not going to increase the page count much, but it will be an easier, more clear read, I think.
All right, so you want 1 page per.
Well, yeah.
Section.
just a page
Section,
break.
yeah.
Okay.
Start each new section with a new page, I think.
Okay, all right.
So the next section was the one that we did last week, that was a little bit from mine, and I did make the edits as we had discussed.
I think, is there that one yellow in there? No, it's not. So I hope you noticed that, we had discussed whether or not to put the regulations as an appendix, and instead Barbara inserted a hyperlink to it, which I thought was a good solution. Are we good with that?
Mhm.
What is this now?
The, look on page 2.
Page 2 from the beginning?
Yes,
I don't.
there's
My document's
pagination
not
on the
numbered.
bottom. Oh, I don't know why yours cut off.
I have no
There's,
idea.
there are pages in there's pagination. I don't know why. Unless. And I don't know how you got a footer on it either. I mean, I had
I
a,
took a printed copy from Google Documents.
yeah, that's what I did too. Anyway, so here, Joe, the final rule,
Okay.
that is a hot link to the rule.
Mhm.
So instead of including the 117 pages of small type as an appendix, anyone who is curious can just link into it.
Okay, there is a, I forget exactly what it's called, but there is like a 3-page, I have it here. It's a 3-page document that gives like a quick summary of the final rule.
Is it in our Google Drive?
It is, I believe at one time I shared it with the committee. Who knows whatever happened to it, but anyway, yeah, I have it right here. This?
It's Patricia's house.
Oh, no, that's not the one that I use. That's not the one.
It's called a quick reference guide,
Who is that put out by?
the US Treasury.
What's the date on it?
I don't see a date on here, but it's, in fact, I took this from the Sharon website for their Arpa group. They have,
Look it early on, then it's the interim.
Yeah, my concern would be that anything preceding April 1st, 2022.
it's the final rule, so it came out January of this year.
That is on the final rule or the interim?
This is the final rule. I believe so.
Well, I mean, the link is there, so.
Well, but if there's something, if there's another document that's more concise that we might add, I think it would be fine. I didn't know which document that might be, to be honest, because I haven't seen anything very concise come out since
It's
the
the
final
document.
rule.
Reading all this stuff.
But it's not
Some of
3
it.
pages, it's more like 5.
I really doubt. Ought to read all this legally.
If you go to the Town of Sharon's website, like now, you will see it on there. It's called the Quick Reference Guide of the small, the state, local.
So you would like to see this as part
I
of
guess
the.
my other comment on that, though, is that Barbara did a really good job of doing that in this section. That's
Yeah.
what I thought this section actually was. I mean, it summarizes
This-
what the permissible uses
This is
are.
actually a PowerPoint presentation. This, this document here that they have on the Sharon website.
Well, you want to put it.
I think it would be,
People wanna see
rather
it.
than.
I have no idea.
No, because we don't know where they got.
Right, we
It's the
can't do
US
that.
Treasury.
We can't do that without verifying the source and the date.
It's the US Treasury. It's not like something that's made up. It's from the US Treasury.
I know,
But what
but
do you
it's,
suggest we do with it?
instead of putting the final rule linked, you can include that.
Well,
And a quick
I don't want to
message.
do instead of. I think we should do the
That's
final.
it right
rule.
there. That's it right
It's
there.
a two-page document on the town of Sharon.
Can you see what the date is
Uh,
and where it came from? Did the town of, if the town of Sharon made it up, I don't
No,
think that
no,
we
it's
should
not.
share
It's
it.
US Treasury.
If it was published by the Treasury,
It has the Treasury seal on it and everything.
The U.S. Department of Treasury provides this document to state and local contact channels and other sources, resources for informational purposes. Which shall incorporate the provisions of the interim final rule and or final rule that implements this program. So it references the final rule. It doesn't have a date on it, but it's a two-page little document. It comes from the Department of Treasury.
I'm not sure. I think I agree with Connie. I'm not sure what the relevance of it is.
It's really general.
Well, I think we're giving them everything they need.
It's a PowerPoint presentation with slides and visuals.
but does it say anything different than Barbara has said in this report?
Well, I mean, everything here is wordy, and, you know, rather than have a lot of pages and wording, you know, and of words, you have the visuals right there. You can see it, you know, and grasp everything right away.
We can't put a PowerPoint into this report.
So this isn't a PowerPoint. This is just a two-page document that distills everything. It's very general, but it's not a PowerPoint.
I made a printed copy of it, and it said PowerPoint presentation, you know, as to how it described it.
Okay, I think we need to leave it the way it is. And if there is an informational document that we want to use as an exhibit to supplement the final rule, which I think a hyperlink to the final rule is a good idea. Not everyone's going to do it, but you know, it's right there, and that is the thing. But if there's a concise document that we want to append, I didn't see that. You know, I didn't see one that I really felt was frankly better than what you have written in here, Barbara. I think that the information is solid, and I think it belongs here because it fully explains what the allowable uses are before getting into what our recommendations actually are.
Okay,
Okay, can we continue?
yep.
Now we're jumping ahead to methodology.
Right, but methodology, I think that it is important not to do what is in this document, but to be able to talk about the suggested changes that I shared around to Patricia's.
Right.
What?
Because this document, Patricia, had, it was, I cut and pasted, but I sent around a markup.
Yes, of my recommendation section. What are we talking about now? I thought we were on methodology.
Oh, sorry, we are on methodology.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay,
I
so
wishful
one-
thinking that we are further along.
one thing I wanted to talk about is the term environmental scan. I know it's what we call it, but I'm not sure it's understandable. For one thing, environmental means different things for people in the architecture and design world. Environment and environmental means space. To
Okay. Call it
conservation.
something different. I
Yeah.
really completely agree with you. Nobody knows what I'm talking about when I say environmental scan.
Can we, how about comparative analysis?
Well, but it's not an analysis. It's just a comparative compilation. It's just a compilation of what other people are doing. We didn't analyze it.
We could just say.
Comparative review then.
Actually, I came up with another term for it. Tracking of surrounding towns, Arpa matters.
I'm all right with that. Anyone else?
Fine.
Okay.
No, sorry to go backwards, but the sentence above that, the elements of the committee's assessment included, and then I thought that should be expounded on a little bit and just say 5 different and distinct techniques, and then make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of A, B, C, D, E. So we did 5 different things.
Okay.
That sort of quantifies that we did that.
Okay, so we're going 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, because we did 5 different and distinct techniques to gather information.
Okay.
So what did we decide to replace environmental scan?
Tracking of surrounding towns ARPA matters.
Something short and sweet.
Exactly what it is, so, you know.
It's fine. It is definitely much better descriptive of what it is.
Yeah. And then where it says the committee kept a running list, well, I changed that to the committee researched and compiled a running list. Because that's what Joe did. He researched it and compiled the list.
Another thing in that section that I wondered about was I see the relevance of keeping track of the plan of conservation and development and the town's affordable housing plan, but Kent streetscape and the hiring of new staff within the Kent Parks and Recreation and Social Services Department. Were we really informed by those things?
I thought we were, and that's why I wrote it. I mean, I think that these developments definitely entered into our discussion as we were thinking about what recommendations we made.
Well, for the Kent Plan of Conservation and Development, I did look at that, and there was information that there was on there about the need for affordable housing in the future, and the need for improvement in the Park and Rec Department. So there was information there because they're preparing their 10-year plan now, apparently. And they were mentioned in there. So that document was helpful, you know, for people to look at to see what the future needs would be for Kent. As far as the streetscape, I don't know what that
We
would
talked
be.
about that when Glenn did his, interviews. Glenn was out there
Yeah.
pounding the
And
pavement.
we did talk about the new staff when we talked about allocating funding for different things. I think it's a good idea to put the word other in front of community surveys and other community surveys.
Mhm. And really, I mean, if there's something, if it should just come out, I'm totally okay with that, because I want to get this done and we are moving super slowly.
Yeah.
So I don't care, I'm not going to die on my sword for any of this language. I wrote it because I thought it, but if you don't agree with it, I'm good with it coming out.
One of the observations I made in this section was that I think all of the different things that we compiled should be appended, with the exception of the one-on-one interviews.
In the one-on-one interviews, we have to add Lorraine Astudillo, Lori Nails, because I did one-on-one interview her.
I couldn't find notes from that though. Maybe they aren't in the Google Drive, Patricia. All I could find from her was her letter to you.
Yeah, no, she gave.
Yeah, the letters in there. To be honest, I don't remember if I typed up notes on that. But I
You
did.
report it to us orally.
Yeah, no, it definitely happened, but
Yeah.
I could not find notes.
Oh.
And then in that section under one-on-one interviews, if we could just change it so that the entities are listed and then the people's names, so it says Kent Center School, Michelle Mott, principal, Davis IGA, comma, Gary Davis,
Mhm.
Rhythm Fitness and Wellness, comma, Vanessa Anderson, so that the business names are
Sure.
first. Well, the school, that should be first.
Speaking of Geraldine Woodruff, I'm looking at her name now. If I didn't think you guys would string me up by my thumbs, I would be like all for recommending money to do Christmas lights across the street, across Main Street, as Geraldine suggested with
That's the blueberries, lady.
Say, add the Christmas lights.
Geraldine can take it up with the Chamber of Commerce. Their share what she would like them to
Right,
do.
that's their bailiwick.
Yeah, the notes from that, I don't think should be appended. I think they should be available upon request. And then under correspondence, that very last sentence in that first group where it says, no solicitation or request for application was made. Applications were made by our committee.
Wait, what?
Under E, which is now going to be number 5.
Oh, just use it, just changing was to were.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. See
okay.
what I mean? I went through this thing and, I sat with my little red pencil at night, wordsmithing heavily, thinking, they're going to hate me.
So if we're making the one-on-one interviews available on request, should we make the residents focus group ones? I mean, I just, is there a reason?
Focus group, if we do those, even if I'm sure social services groups and nonprofit groups wouldn't mind sharing what they shared, we did promise confidentiality. So somehow names have to be removed because
Why don't we ask, why
We
don't
promised
we say
that.
that's upon request too, for the focus groups?
I was wondering about that whole matter about that for the, how that would be handled. And, like my thought on that was that, okay, when the report is submitted, all this data is included with the report, everything, all these exhibits and so forth are all included in that. And afterwards, the material, the supporting information that's available would be attached to the minutes of the meeting, and then it would be permanently stored on the town website. I guess the administrative assistant in town here would handle all that kind of stuff.
We don't have an admin assistant, town clerk, is that what you?
Joyce, you mean Joyce Kearns?
Joyce doesn't do that though, but
No,
Darlene
she
does.
doesn't. Darlene would do it, but what's the concern? I'm not sure I'm following it.
Concern?
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking of the process. Wouldn't that be the process?
Once we submit the document to the selectman's office, it will become part of their minutes for that meeting, and
It's public.
it's public. It'll be on the town website.
Well, people will see it that way then, right?
That's right.
Patricia, we did say confidentiality when we talked with groups.
We did.
Well, then that's not keeping in with what we said.
Right, so can't we say that those notes would be available upon request? We don't have to include those notes as a.
Right, but that still allows people to read them if we said they were confidential.
I don't think we can make anything, isn't that what Darlene's big problem was? that
I don't think we
had
can
to-
make anything confidential.
Okay, then we
And
shouldn't
Darlene
have
wanted
said
us
that.
to warn the meetings. to warn
No,
the
but I'm
focus
talking,
groups.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
so I think if we just
I mean,
Upon
I don't remember
request.
saying
And
confidential.
if somebody requests them, I'll redact names. I mean, I can do that. I just
Oh,
don't
all
think
right,
there's gonna be
okay.
any.
I mean, if we
request.
told, I honestly don't remember, but if we told people it's confidential,
Yeah,
then their names should not be out
yeah,
there.
I could read
Yeah,
that name.
all right, okay,
Do you think anybody's actually gonna request it?
probably, I don't think, no.
No, they're gonna do it.
Anyway,
I agree.
So I think what I'm hearing, so let's unpack this just a little bit more. Joe's document tracking surrounding towns ARPA matters would be appended to the
Yes.
report? Okay, as would
The
the
survey
survey results.
Yep.
The notes from the focus groups would be available on request,
Yep.
as would the one-on-one interviews.
Yep.
And the copies of the correspondence, should we,
Available on request as well.
I mean, those are public documents because they were mailed to a committee under, that was serving a municipal function. So, but it seems odd to include those and not include the others.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
think it's
those should
fine
all
to
be
do
available on
available upon
request.
request.
If anybody wants them,
Okay.
I'll redact names from the focus groups and the one-on-one interviews.
But won't they be on the minutes anyhow?
No, because we're not going to append them.
Okay,
They'll just be available upon request.
okay, good. Okay, so beyond that, and with those changes in terms of the, listing the business first and then the name, Barbara, are there, and adding Lorraine to the one-on-one interviews, but Patricia, if you would look to see if you made written notes.
If I haven't done them, should I? If I haven't, I have notes written in my notebook. I'm 100% sure of that. If I didn't type them up as an official report, I'll do so now.
Okay, thanks. Any others?
Okay, page break before recommendations again. I don't have any comment until page 7. And that is, therefore, first paragraph, third sentence, no, second sentence. Therefore, we recommend employing an application process to first disperse grants in the first 3 categories. I would delete that first because we aren't going to first disperse grants to the 3, are we? I mean, for example, that 24 grand for hybrid meeting equipment is needed pretty soon, and that's in the municipal category. So I wouldn't want to have to wait until we're done with the first 3 categories to disperse that fund.
What do you want to do with therefore we recommend, Barbara?
she's just saying, take out the first.
Oh, I know, I took that out.
Yeah.
No
that's all.
question. No, but Barbara's.
Oh, Barbara, I'm sorry.
The idea of we recommend, does that first one? Oh my God.
What page are we on?
Page
Page
7.
7,
So you want the committee recommends employing an application process?
or do you want to take recommendation out of there to begin with?
Let's see, therefore, an application process to distribute grants in the first 3 categories of funds will present a straightforward and, I don't know, I'd have to wordsmith it a little bit.
I don't know that we have to go through it and get out the recommendations. That was the charge, to make recommendations. I think the use of the word is not going to invite any more dissent than we'd automatically receive. I think
Let's just see if it ends up seeming redundant in any places and take it out where we think it should come out.
yeah, it's
I just think application process to disperse grants in the first 3 categories will be employed.
Yeah,
I like the committee recommends there.
mhm,
And then I can see it coming out of the beginning of number 4
mhm,
and
yeah,
number 5 for efficient processing, all applications
yeah. And
shall
then-
be or should be.
not that one. I think that one's going to be, if anything sticks out for the Board of Selectmen, it might be that. So I don't think we should make number 5 sound like a fait accompli. I think it needs to be a recommendation.
And then last week I had mentioned that I think the word should needs to come out and be replaced with the word will. You look under the first one, application information and promotion should be widely.
Will be. Okay.
And number 2, should be in place, will be.
Okay.
It just
Okay.
sounds more,
Definitive.
less wishy-washy.
Definitive.
Yeah, more definitive.
Okay. Do you remember why that Y was in parens? Was that because there was a question about whether you, Barbara, would provide?
I put that in there.
Yeah,
Not because I don't think we should do it, just as a number of rejections and why rejected. You could take,
I actually thought all of that should come out and just say, the treasurer will provide monthly reports to the Board of Selectmen, period. Define what the reports are.
I'm fine. with that.
again, I'm in favor of keeping that very, I'm afraid that people will think that there's too much power invested in a single person or a single office. And
I wanted to take the word decision out and change it, interchange it with the word disbursement. So I'm included, Treasurer Barbara Herbst, including application, receipt, review, and disbursement.
I agree with disbursement. Do you think, Barbara, you can live with the information there? All it
Oh,
says
yeah.
is
Yeah.
IE.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
IE and the format of your report would be something that would be decided on later.
Absolutely.
I had some thoughts on the whole application process. One of the things that was mentioned is that to have monthly reports submitted to the selectmen. What if there were a plan where all the applications were submitted to the selectmen, say, once it closes, like August 30th? And then this way here, the selectmen will look at in totality, all the applications, and then decide on it at that point. How does that sound as a plan?
It sounds like it's gonna slow the whole process down,
How so?
because we'll be waiting till August 30th before any decisions are made and any money is dispersed.
Well, this way here, they have everything there at one time.
Yeah, but what if,
They don't need it.
that's a huge,
Especially
For
for
since,
Barbara to have to, have all this stuff coming, it should be, I think, over time.
and then they get, 300 pages
And what
to
do they
look
need the
through. And
applications for?
Well, they're saved, and then afterwards,
I'm not gonna destroy anything. Everything that I do has to be saved for the integrity of my reporting back to the federal government.
right?
You were thinking of Sharon, where the guy said he wanted everything, just
Not necessarily.
because
I-
they've changed that. They've given out money.
Well, I mentioned that at the last meeting, but then again, too, I was thinking that, okay, if everything was weighted until August 30th, all the applications were submitted,
Let's get,
dare I say, the report as well.
let's get this
They
money
would
out
have,
there.
they would have the whole package right there. Boom, it's over.
But it doesn't matter, Joe, because Barbara will be processing the applications. So as they come in, she processes the applications and then they get a report. It's the same thing. You're either reporting less, which is what you're suggesting, less and all at once, or more and along the way.
More
Well,
timely.
I'm thinking too, in the sense that, okay, the selectmen have all that information in front of them at that point, and then they can make a decision as to how they want to go about using those funds, if they want to say yes or no to the nonprofits
That
or
is not our
whoever.
recommendation.
And then afterwards, use those funds for some other need.
You're bringing up a complete departure from what we've decided, which is that our recommendation be that the selectmen approve this pool of money for a specific class, and that applications come in and be processed by Barbara without the selectmen meeting to decide on the individual applications. So that is that is not how we did not decide. We decided.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
Well, it's, okay, you're not looking at it in the sense that they may look at these recommendations and they may say, okay, I want to do that one. Or they may look at another one, I want to do that one. And then they look at another recommendation, not so much, I don't think I want to do that one. Okay, so it's.
Yeah, they're definitely free to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we've got to get this money out. I mean, first, we've been sitting on it and sitting on it, time to.
Well, yes and no. As far as that goes, we're using the whole $821,000, recommending and distributing it now. Some places have just used half of that because the next tranche is going to be coming in, I guess, in July. So once this report goes out, then they're using the whole the whole two tranches been in there.
I think we've already been through it. Not that I don't hear what you're saying, Joe, but I think we've decided that already in this committee, and it's not time to reopen that. And I don't know that you'd find support among this committee to reopen that.
Then you all feel comfortable with this report being submitted as is.
We're making tweaks to it right now, but absolutely the structure of the recommendations is something we decided before we even started to write the report.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought that by doing it through Barbara, it would be the most efficient way to get the money out there, which we have to do. There are deadlines for that. And to wait till the end of August is, I think, problematic. To lay it on the Board of Selectmen, who already have a gazillion things to take care of. This is the most expedient and efficient way to do it, and Barbara will process this in the most transparent way, and as we say, report diligently to the Board of Selectmen monthly, who can question her on the decisions and disbursements. So I'm really comfortable with that as our recommendation.
We spoke for a long time about this. I remember we had a long chat about who was going to handle this, and I'm also in support of this. So.
Okay, so can we move on, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wordsmith to do, instead of using the word pool, can we use allocated allotment?
That's fine.
Why? Pool is just a simpler, easier term. Allocated allotment. I think that's arbitrary and unnecessary. I would leave it pool.
Either way,
Me too, fine.
let's leave it pool, okay? People can understand what that is. I would change, so looking at the bullets, the 5 bullets under number 1, aid to individuals and families, in light of Barbara's comment, let's change the first word in bullet 5 to D. So not our recommended, but why don't we, I don't know if how you feel about recommended, but let's definitely call it the application or the recommended.
Yeah,
The application, which
Yeah.
one? You want to take out
I
recommended?
had the
The-
application. so.
Application.
Okay, okay.
And you can do that consistently for all the different categories.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
On this one, Connie, why did you take out reference to the IGA frontline workers? And it brings up a bigger thing, which I'm not sure why it's wrong to say a positive thing about a group of people or a nonprofit organization. It doesn't detract from any other groups of people or organizations, but why not say the IGA workers did a good job? Why not say the road crew works many times overnight to keep our roads safe? Why not say the library was resourceful in coming up with programs? It helps to sell, to your point of not being so bland that we don't sell our recommendations properly. Why do we take all of that out?
I really just want to hear from others. I feel like I know a few people who would immediately jump on that and be all over it. And I
Really?
think
People are so petty that they would take offense at one nonprofit getting a positive comment because they did not.
no, I don't think it would be colleagues. I think it would be other people in town who, I just, my thought process was two different things. It's number one, calling out one group when there are other groups of people who were just as courageous that we just didn't happen to interview. And also, the anticipated ridicule that I would expect to get from a certain component of our town.
I'm mixing my reporting with this. I think we have to keep it non-subjective.
I agree.
We are not here to decide that we all agree the town crew is great and so-and-so and the essential workers, but that is not what we should be.
Right.
We have to be more objective.
I
I
agree.
agree, Patricia, with what you're saying, but it doesn't belong in here.
Yeah, I'm in your boat. Ruth.
I have mixed feelings about that. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem of seeing the IGA workers mentioned or whatever. I mean, to me, that wouldn't have a problem, but it's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, did it ever occur to anyone that the people that read it, the just as important audience of townspeople who read it might feel really good about knowing that we hear them, that we recognize them, that we pay attention to what they did, and it would make them feel better about the report? No one things. I just don't know where there is this rule that we have to be totally subjective. It's not a newspaper article. It is, we were asked to do an assessment and make recommendations. If we support our recommendations, I don't see why it's so bad to say something nice about a group of people, organization. And I'll shut up about this, but I think I really do think it's a shame that we can't take the opportunity to compliment some people that stood out.
I'm thinking, would it be more appropriate, instead of having it in the recommendation section, to have that in the introduction section? How we recognize, or we learned about these different groups of people who rose above and beyond the regular call of duty during this time, or something like that.
Yeah, so, but why wouldn't we then call out our postal workers and
I don't think we should call
our
out anybody.
emergency
I'm not
responders?
suggesting
and-
that we call out specific people.
Oh, just generalized.
Just
Yeah.
more generalized and call out all the people that
Yeah.
went above and beyond.
I just don't think we should be naming people.
And,
One
and
over
instead
another.
of
I agree with
saying
you.
one business, say in our local businesses, in our municipality, in our school system.
Could write
that kind of
something,
thing.
could
That
write,
could go in the introduction though.
could write something like a dedication or some, of some sort,
Yeah,
you
something
know.
like that, maybe.
I do.
That's sort of like,
Because then they'll be hit with it right off the bat.
find that
Oh, they do that,
right,
they do
but-
that.
And we are listing people that, obviously, we talked to all these people, so they know that we reached out. I just don't think we ought to. You gotta, as Connie said, pit people against others.
Yeah.
and-
I just don't believe people are that petty, but all right, okay. I'm outvoted. No, I really don't. I wouldn't, I don't think the Kent Land Trust is gonna get all their nose bent out of shape if the library gets a compliment. I just don't think that.
No, that's not what's gonna happen, but there's gonna be a contingent of people who fall over like fawning over these workers and, what about these workers? And
Yeah,
then
I
chit
ju- you
chat
just
and
get
just.
to- you
blah.
got-
But we do say we encourage, there are other frontline workers. We say that clearly. In fact, it's in bold. So anyway, drop it. I'm done with that argument. I think you're wrong. I wish you would, to a certain degree, trust the advice of a branding, marketing person, but you can't, and that's okay. Let's move on.
Could we get to my question, because my question involves local businesses, and I guess we're on to that part.
Yes,
Well, I have some confusion about the businesses, the local businesses that, because there was on that Rubik form, there were 4 local businesses that were profiled, and there was an amount on there of $5,000, which I guess was an estimate of. But anyhow, are these 4 businesses going to be getting funding without an application?
no, we did not hybrid the businesses.
They were never, there's no record of it, but
We didn't discuss that.
the reason why I'm asking that also is that if you look at the Rubik form, it does say, okay, there's a heading on top of the column that says approved at the committee meeting of 4/20/2022. On the Rubik form.
Can you be specific about what business?
Well, yes, there was a bed and breakfast, there was the Kent Brewery, there was Lori's Nails, and there was another one, a merchant, Taro and Time.
But we may have approved the pool amount, but I don't remember specifically approving any of those
No,
requests.
there was no, that's what I'm saying, I'm confused as to whether or not those
This
businesses.
goes away now, Joe.
Because they had made a request. They had,
They did,
I
but there
believe,
was no application process.
no, I
They-
know that, but there
they
was a
sent us
request, an
information.
email.
They
There were
sent
e-
us information, which was helpful to us in making our decision about a pool of $100,000 to make grants up to $10,000 each to local businesses. And our feeling was there should be an application process where they present backup documentation showing their loss.
Right, but for the nonprofits though, some were approved
The
without
nonprofits
applications.
is different. The
nonprofit, even though
nonprofits
they're
is
doing-
hybrid.
Complete an application, the information they submitted had a lot of information so that to go back to them, they only have to submit now some supplemental documentation to show their business losses, the nonprofits. The businesses, as Connie pointed out, we didn't make any direct recommendations for any businesses. All the businesses are gonna have to do the full application process.
Well, there was one business, Lori's Nails, she gave figures for her loss.
She's still gonna have to fill out an application.
So then therefore,
Just because she gave me figures, that's not gonna be enough for the substantiating.
so then, okay, so now there's $100,000 in that category for people to apply for. Okay, so that makes the application process even more important because it was like 35% of the ARPA funding. Now it's greater than 35% of funds that have to be handed out. Right?
I don't know, I'm not sure I'm even following what the
Well,
concern is.
What I'm saying is that, okay, the $821,000 total that Ken is getting, 35% of that is going to be, the funding is going to be going through this application process. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so what's the concern?
Well, that's a big deal. I mean, that's a large amount of money that's not being distributed yet.
So I feel like you are arguing against yourself in this meeting in so many ways, because we were just having a conversation about how important we thought it was to be able to make disbursements during the short application period between June and August. And we have done as a committee a lot of discussing and deciding in order to be able to move this money out quickly. So are you concerned that we're moving it out not quickly enough? Too quickly? Or,
Okay.
I mean,
No, I understand what you're saying. My concern, and I wouldn't even know if I call it concern, is that there's a huge amount of money that has not been distributed yet.
None of the money has been distributed yet.
Well, that's true, but what I'm saying is that on paper, a lot of it has been allocated.
actually, none of it has been.
No,
until
I
we
mean,
go to the
no one's been
selectmen.
paid yet, I know, but what I'm saying is that the plan on paper is to have amounts divided up, but all this money that's sitting, waiting for people to apply is a large portion of the ARPA funding.
Yeah. I think what we're doing is right. I think it's good. I think there's any
understand
reason to
your
change
concerns.
anything that we've
Yeah,
been
and
doing.
it's like, okay, are we ready to give a report when this is still up in the air?
But that's the whole point. We have certain ones we've earmarked, maybe, and the rest is open field for applications, right? Yeah, we're ready.
I'm gonna move on in the aid to nonprofits bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4,
I'm
5.
not quite there yet because of that yellow. And I felt like I wasn't really sure that we decided what the deal was supposed to be with the premium pay, Barbara, because I thought you were gonna ask Gary about it somehow. That was,
Well, I don't want to outline the premium pay as a recommendation because to comply with premium pay is intricate.
I took that premium pay reference out, so it's not in there anymore. It just says a bonus.
Well, there's supposed to be next year in the next legislative session, I had read that the legislature is going to be handling some kind of a premium pay for essential workers. You know, so there may be something that's gonna happen
And that was
next
part of the
year.
reason why we didn't make any direct allocations in the business section. Because we wanted to have people apply so I can talk to them individually to see how they were thinking that they would use their ARPA funding, et cetera.
Right, because wait, let's back this up for a second, because let's think about IGA. Right, and when I read the definitions of what ARPA funds could be used for,
You know,
this is, you know, true, it's in reference to premium pay and not, you know, I mean, I don't think you can use ARPA funds to give a bonus. Use ARPA funds to offer premium pay, but I think premium pay can only go to people that had direct contact with other people and were essential workers, as I was reading.
I have that information right in my,
I know that was what
section.
kind of gave me pause. So then I started thinking, does that mean everyone in the IGA or only the people who were like cashiers, stocking shelves, you know, or people in the IGA who were not those
okay,
workers?
so let's just say for the sake of this discussion, the IGA can show that they had a revenue loss and they applied for ARPA funding and they got a $10,000 grant. If they want to turn around and take that $10,000 grant and give bonuses to their
Right,
employees,
that they could do.
that.
Right,
If they want to apply for ARPA money to provide premium pay to their frontline workers, that's going to be a different process on their side. And it's
right.
going to require different reporting back to me. So that's a decision that hasn't been made yet by these businesses. That's
And I
why-
just wonder if we write this in, I mean, does that mean like the pharmacy, you know, any business that was open that had somebody who was interfacing with the public, you know, are their workers gonna like say, you know, like, what about me? Like, why aren't you applying for that? I just
I don't
kind
know
of
what
feel
the
like,
workers are going to say.
They have to worry about that.
and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to pick on the IGA because I'm very grateful for the IGA. So I hate having to always use them as an example. And actually, had we talked to, you know, some other businesses like the pharmacy, I think we would have come to the same kind of conclusions.
My wordsmithing note next to all the yellow is removed. So that's where I was at. That should, in my theory, that should have all been removed. In my wordsmithing,
In what should all be removed?
everything in yellow under A to local businesses. The last bullet.
The whole thing. So now we're not going to recommend rewarding frontline workers. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess so, because that's telling them what they need to do. That's telling the business what they need to do. I think they have a better handle of what they need to do than we do.
Other thoughts?
I lost on this one. I don't know. Let them decide, is that what we're saying?
I'm saying that we can't make that kind of a recommendation.
So,
Because then we'd have to sit around and determine who all the frontline workers are in Kent.
well, and it wouldn't be up to, yeah, it wouldn't be up to us. So the business needs to apply. And if they can show that they suffered $10,000 of economic harm,
If
they
they,
maybe get a grant. And
But as we know, IGA did not suffer economic harm, so they will not be able to prove that. So then those workers will not get their bonus.
the IGA, since we're talking about them, they could still apply for ARPA money to provide premium pay to their employees. The application process for that is going to be different. They're going to have to show employment records during a certain period of time. They're going to have to show what the employees' rates of pay are. It's all going to be calculated out.
so I think what we should do is we need to add a little something that says, given the potential use of ARPA to provide premium pay, we would encourage businesses who are interested in this to contact the town treasurer to learn about how to apply for that.
Fine.
Because we don't really, that there is a small amount of overage of surplus beyond what we made our recommendations for. And so, it could come out of a number of different pots conceivably. We don't really know whether or not certain businesses who have essential workers that might be eligible for premium pay would even bother applying because of the reporting requirements.
In all that research that I did for tracking the other towns, I really didn't come across any town that spotlighted premium pay for their essential workers.
Did they give to businesses? Did you see anything that gave to business?
Local businesses or businesses, yes, I did see that. Yeah, I did see
That's
them.
why I specifically put all the information about premium pay right in my section, so that people could read it right up front, what the requirements are,
Fine.
how it works.
So I
I
would
don't
go
think
along
we
with
can
your
recommend
recommendation.
premium pay.
I would go along with, take it all out and
Yeah.
let people.
You wouldn't even put a bullet that says, given the permitted use of ARPA funding for premium pay, we encourage businesses who
Well,
had essential
You
workers.
said you put it,
Yeah,
I know, but it's not in
That's
our
fine.
recommendations.
I think that sentence that you're saying now is okay, but I think we need to stay away from identifying any business.
yeah.
It probably was too ambitious to even, think of a plan to
Can't
do that.
imagine the work that's gonna have to go in, that Gary's gonna wanna do all that.
Well, it's not, it's that I have to report it all. The federal government,
Right,
I've got the employee's name, how many hours, what the rate of pay is.
Yeah, but
Because they
he's
can-
gotta provide that for you,
Right.
that's,
If they can get a certain amount up to, they can get $13 an hour above their regular pay up to, I think it's $26 an hour, is how the premium pay is structured.
okay, can he go any other route?
Just the other route that I said earlier.
He can say,
If he can document some other hardship
yeah, but,
through COVID.
right,
and
and we're
get
saying he
that
didn't
way.
have it because, but it's his workers who experienced the hardship.
Yeah.
He can show that his payroll was triple what it was the year before.
Yeah.
That's enough, right there, because it's increased. When you look at the applications that I did create, there's on the business one, it's like increased staffing costs is one of the
Right,
qualifiers.
Right.
So
So
that-
it doesn't have to be a harm that is a
Right.
loss of revenue. It could
Right.
be a harm that was related to additional expenses. So,
Okay,
Mhm.
it's gonna be very interesting to see
Who
in
comes
the next
forward?
6 months who comes forward, yeah.
okay. All right. So I'll tinker with the language a little bit and look for your feedback on that.
Okay, onward.
Yeah, so now I think Patricia had, but give me one moment to make my
Okay.
notes. Okay,
You have 2 extra bullets.
Yes.
yeah, I saw those.
Oh,
It's not easy to format in Google Drive. So some of the formatting, can be improved upon. Okay, all right, good enough for me to remember. Okay, so beyond the extra bullets. Let's look for we's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the
And
third bullet, it's like the third, fourth sentence down, starts with the word applications, comma, we. So we take that we out, but I also took out that word recommended, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Because the committee ascertained that these organizations provided
yep.
considerable information.
So it would say, rather than require these organizations to restate their applications, these organizations will be considered to have already applied. Good.
Well, yes, but then however, there is going to be supplemental compliance documentation.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just saying that's how I would change that
Yeah.
sentence. Changing a should to will in the second to last bullet.
And get rid of the recommended application, it's just the applications attached.
When we say the organizations recommended for grant disbursement at this stage, should we say that they have requested, made requests? I mean, it looks like we're just giving it out. All of these have come forward, right?
Yes,
Yeah, that's the third bullet. The third bullet explains why.
and it's not just a submission of an estimate of loss. It's going to be substantiation of expressed loss. It's not going to be just an estimate. The estimate was in the survey. The application isn't going to be an estimate.
Right, hold on. I thought I knew where you were talking.
So it's like the third bullet from the boxes. Grant applications for funding to compensate for lost income / increased expenses will require submission of or substantiation of expressed loss.
Well, but that's not express loss because that bullet refers to new applications, not the hybrid ones.
Well, then substantiation of their estimated loss, however you want to word it, but.
Just substantiation of loss would
Yeah.
be sufficient, I think. Mhm. Changing a should to will.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
I just, when we get there, I've got a pretty important thing that needs to come out. Down under the municipal project.
Are we there?
Does the Penn Cemetery Association only do one cemetery?
No.
So I would say town cemeteries.
Okay.
And then on the bottom of that page, under the last bullet where it's number A, we need to get rid of to ensure compliance with recently passed legislation, because there is no legislation that compels a municipality to hold electronic meetings of any kind.
Why don't we just write $24,000 for the purchase of hybrid meeting equipment
Yeah,
without getting
well,
into,
I just wanted to correct that misinformation that's out there. I know the town clerk has stated that it's her interpretation that all meetings now have to be hybrid, and that is incorrect. They do not.
I think we probably,
So there is no legislation requiring us to have this equipment.
yeah, I think we should just take out all of the language after hybrid meeting equipment because
Well, I would say municipal meeting, just so we know it's, we're
Mhm.
talking,
it
And
is a
you can use to
municipal.
foster
But there is a law that was passed 3 or 4 weeks ago that all meetings have to be both virtual. You have to set them up virtually.
my
There-
towns that I cover are doing it.
Patricia, that's not a law. And the interpretation that the town clerk took was incorrect.
What does it matter though, as long as our recommendation is buy this equipment? And
Yeah.
I don't think that it was requested of us that there was no request made that said hybrid equipment to foster transparency. I mean, it will do that, and I think that we can all get behind that. But let's keep it basic.
Where did that come from anyway?
What?
Where did that part come from?
Well, because
I
that's
wrote
why,
from
that's why we think it's a good idea.
Was it in that request that was sent to the committee?
No, but the Board of Selectmen and Jean get a lot of flack about these issues from people. So I thought it would be a good idea to explain why this hybrid equipment is necessary to cut off any sort of dissension before it begins. That's all. Simple as that. We're going bland. Let's go bland. Take it all out.
And the dog is not happy.
Okay, let's move on. In C of the same thing, why did we take out multi-year under the senior thing? We are recommending that it be at least a 2-year program. So why did we remove multi-year?
I thought that the money has to be spent. Like, I don't know that you can just carry on year over year. So I think we have to give the disbursement and not say this is for a multi-year program.
And there's also language in the final rule that discourages you from setting up something that requires additional funding later.
It's like a one-time injection.
Mhm.
But didn't Barbara, you say that it has to be certain amount has to be done this year, certain amount next year? So doesn't that imply that it would be at least a 2-year program?
Yeah, you could probably say the same thing just by saying you keeping compliance with the Arpa disbursement guidelines. Because I did put that information in my section somewhere.
So maybe add back and say 2-year instead of multi-year, and the language in keeping with, which was a modifier that we put on the fire department, right? Or was it on a
The
different one?
costs have to be incurred by 12/31/24.
Where was the one that? Yeah, see the third bullet under municipal projects that says grant disbursements should be committed, utilized, committed, and expended within the ARPA compliance timeframe. So if we did that, we could say multi-year and then add this bullet under it. Is that, would that be good, Patricia?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Under infrastructure upgrades, I don't know. When we say the installation of a series of outdoor exercise stations in the park, it seems quite random. Like, why would they pick that? Couldn't we just say to afford the entire community a space for healthy outdoor exercise, or just something to explain why we randomly chose outdoor exercise stations? I don't know. It just seems too random as is. You want to go out? Okay.
It's fine. I don't know that we can really commit the Park and Rec department to doing that if they don't want to.
I agree.
So
I
I,
haven't even discussed it. I haven't heard anything of it except in our meetings.
but maybe if it says 40,000 for this purpose, then they,
Well, they're
if
gonna
they
use it
don't,
for drainage.
if they,
Yeah, and if the community sort of gets behind the idea, they kind of have to do it. But and I think we can say that we don't decide, but we can make a recommendation that it be used for this, that the selectmen can then dictate.
There never was anything that came to the ARPA committee from Park and Rec.
no.
So, you know,
Yes, they did. They sent thing for lots of money.
you know,
Like, I think we should, I feel like we should leave it as is without making the argument, because I feel like the argument almost detracts from the statement. Because this way we're saying, this is what we want you to use the money for. And we can't say, you know, so the community has a chance to exercise, because then you're gonna get, you know, well, we offer that, you know, here, or our program in the tennis courts does that, or, you know, I mean, if we really want that to happen, I'd say the more direct, the better. I also, I'm
That
not,
doesn't make it indirect. It just makes it explanatory.
okay, so maybe at the end of that sentence, something like allowing members of the community to exercise.
More, what is it? Healthy activities,
Yeah.
encourage healthy
Outdoor.
activities.
Outdoor interaction.
that kind of goes without saying, though. I mean, outdoor exercise,
Leave it out, leave it out, leave it out.
what else would they be using it for?
I know what my kids might use it for.
Never mind.
Okay, so,
Wait, I have something to back up before that. On the sewer plant, because I was rooting through all of these different exhibits, their $57,000 itemizes other things besides the new roof and the engineering cost. Do we want to do anything about that, or do we want to just realize that they asked us for 57, we're giving them 110, and they have all kinds of engineering costs that are going to exceed even that for a new tank? I just bring it
Just
up
say
because I
upgrades?
noticed on the,
Just generalized upgrades to the
Well,
system.
Including, well, I think you could say including $57,000 to satisfy the list of upgrades or something, I forget, but there were a bunch of different things. There was like 5 or 6 different
Yeah.
things. It wasn't just a roof.
it struck me because we got that PC with the fire department and not with the sewer commission. And I know that, you know, yeah, I don't know. I just think maybe we want to take the 57 that they asked us for and list out all those things that they asked for, and then a semicolon, and for engineering costs for a new tank, which is for everything above 57,000 up to 110.
Mhm. Fine with me.
So otherwise, it looks a little arbitrary that we are doing that for the fire department and not for the sewer commission.
Did we lose Patricia?
I think we did.
Really?
I'm the only person on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Patricia, you out there?
Does anyone have her on text? Is it my equipment or? Maybe she'll come back in.
She may have lost her power or she's, connectivity.
Maybe
Well-
she took her dog out.
We're still recording, but I really feel like her comments are important,
needs to take
especially
minutes.
since she drafted, well, she could always watch the recording to take minutes,
Yeah.
which is not fun for anyone, so I'm
No.
not saying that. But I also, this was her section, and I don't think we can continue to discuss it without her.
I don't think it-
It's almost 6:30, right?
Yeah.
I know, I was supposed to be on another meeting an hour ago.
Just on the last page, talk about wordsmiths.
Well, should we, what do we?
No, just taxpayers is one word. Right? Just-
The conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well,
All right, so do you want to pop this off if she's not here?
what do we want to do? What do we want to do for next week? Make all these revisions?
The agenda, I don't know.
Make all,
I hope so. I hope.
I mean, have a mini meeting to finish off where we left off?
Could we talk about like the presentation itself?
We probably do. So actually, we're on for next week. We will finish this report off in 10 minutes.
Maybe.
Hopefully, and then we will devote the rest of the time to talking about the presentation to the Board of
And
Selectmen.
they are coming to a meeting with us, is that what you said?
They will when we invite them to. It's not scheduled.
I'll be there.
You could give me.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. So it is 6:29. Oh, here she is.
Oh.
Do we want to keep going, get the
Yeah,
report
let's
done
finish
and
it.
then,
Finish
okay,
it. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
okay.
She's back. Oh, we lost you there, Patricia.
Hi. She's connecting probably. Hmm. Patricia, if you can't come on, we were already talking about,
Ah.
no, that was
No.
something over there. We were already talking about having, here she is.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Did your computer?
My
run out of battery?
laptop was unplugged and ran out of power,
Okay,
but I'm on my phone, so I'm okay.
okay. So what we thought we could do, we were in the process of figuring out if we wanted to have, like what our next meeting would look like, because we didn't want to continue without you. But we thought maybe since you're back, maybe we can just knock out the rest of the report.
Yeah, let's do that, please.
Okay, and then that way we can spend our meeting next week talking about how to present it to the Board of Selectmen and getting on their calendar. And we'll be done with the report. I mean, we'll turn around these changes, but presumably it'll be in good form to be presented.
Okay, so,
Okay, so I think we're at the fire department.
Just take out the word recommended after no application process.
Okay,
And then I just wordsmithed that fourth bullet just a little bit to switch it around so that it says, it's important to note that through the Arpa needs assessment survey, KBFD received strong public support. And that's it.
okay.
well, yeah, strong, but it was the most.
Okay, well,
I'm comfortable saying that.
overwhelming public support or something, I don't know, but
Why do we have to say that?
Well, that's why we made this its own
Yeah, but I
category.
mean, people are gonna look at that and then they're gonna see, pull them out, $80,000, and they're gonna say, what? They only got $80,000 and these other categories got that much? I mean,
Well, it's one organization though,
Yeah.
well, I mean, like I say. I
and the
mean,
other categories are multiple people and or organizations.
No individual gets more than 5, no business gets more than 10, no nonprofit gets more than 15, but the fire department gets 80.
Weren't you a proponent of going along with the survey results?
I was in favor of giving them more than that. Yes, is that what you're asking?
Oh, no, I thought you thought this was too much.
So how about,
Oh, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
it is important to note that through the Arpa Needs Assessment Survey, the KBFD received the most support for grant awards.
That's fine.
That's fine.
What I'm questioning is, why do we have to say that? I mean, why is that necessary to say that? I mean, people look at the survey results and they know that already.
To acknowledge that we recognize it.
Or going with our
Well, I mean, if
objective,
that's the
we
case,
could
then-
take it out altogether. if
Yeah,
that's
I
really-
think that would be best. Personally, that's what I would feel.
Have it come out?
Why poke the bear?
What bear?
Well, you know, if you're pointing out that there had the greatest response in the survey, and then, you know, you're looking at that amount, it's gonna, you
Well,
know.
the survey is a little bit weighted because they were the only ones pointed out in the survey. We didn't ask in the survey if the sewer commission should be awarded money. We also didn't ask if the highway department should be awarded money. So.
I think it belongs, I think we take it out. I think there are too many ways to talk about this. That
Absolutely.
for our committee to even, you know, this is like a 45-minute.
Okay, out, the fourth bullet out.
Fourth bullet out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, last page.
Page
Are we
break
there yet?
for conclusion. Sure.
I kind of like statement by the committee better than conclusion as
Okay.
the title for this
What
one,
did you say,
because,
Patricia? What did
pardon?
you say, Sarah?
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Did you say you prefer what?
Statement by the committee.
I prefer
Oh.
the original title
What?
of it, which was statement by the committee instead of conclusion. I don't think conclusion really captures the essence of what the statement is. And it's, I don't know, conclusion sounds a little high school reportish. When I think statement by the committee has more
We're all
import.
good with it.
We're good.
It's changed.
You sold us. Okay.
And the other thing is, I think the signature should be like on the front page, all alphabetical, no title, no sort of hierarchy of signatory. The letter is meant to be a unified statement from the whole committee without any particular hierarchy, and it expresses the collaborative effort of the committee, of the work product, of the
I'm fine
development.
with that. I thought that this is what we talked about
I
at the
think
last
the chairman
meeting.
should.
I had that in my revision, but then you changed it to this. I had an alphabetical listing.
Because we talked about listing the committee alphabetically, which we did on the front page, and that if it was submitted, that it come with a signature. So the only other thing I would say is if it, if we wanted it to be egalitarian like that, which I have no objection to whatsoever, that we all sign the document. Which, I mean,
I think that's kind of perfect because it's meant to be like a statement that we all in a unified voice stand behind our work and the report. So I think the egalitarian approach is the right approach.
So
we'll all have to
So
sign
that's
it.
fine.
That's fine, but you are not going to say that we had a chairman?
Well, it's on the website. I don't care.
It should be on the report. I've never seen a report without.
Look, I chaired a committee. I did not chair a report. Right? As the chair, it was my duty to prepare the agenda, notice the
I will
meetings,
disagree,
all
but
of
I'll
that.
go along with you guys.
I think it's.
To wordsmith that last sentence above the word sincerely. I switched that around to the committee is sincere in the expectation that the Board of Selectmen recognize the value of our efforts, fairness, and blah, blah, blah. I think hope is too.
Can you
Soft.
send me that language? Okay, I'm trying to take the notes.
I mean, the recognizes, I think, was another arbitrary word that doesn't improve the letter. Recognizes to me is a little insulting. It's like, I hope you recognize what you see here. And C is more direct and says, we hope you can see the work that we put into it. But, you know.
I like Barbara's rendition. I think that it's strong. And I do feel like ending on a very strong note is a good idea.
Read it again.
This isn't exactly perfect, but something along the lines of, the committee is sincere in the expectation that the Board of Selectmen recognize the value of our efforts, the fairness of our recommendations, and approves the recommendations we have made in totality or in majority part.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Except the word hope.
Expectation, I
think
you
it's
know,
strong. Let's have that expectation.
Why not? I mean,
We
the last thing I want to see is for
this.
this to go to the selectmen and then for them to deconstruct it. That's the last thing I want to see.
I don't think he's gonna vote to do that.
I think that might happen no matter what we do, but hopefully not.
So appendices are only 1, 2, it's, and actually I think I aid them. So it's like A, B, and C. And the last 3 come off because those are available on request.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun.
Also, too, on the cover page, our names, committee, all the committee members that's also going to be present on the title page or the cover page.
Yes. Unless you,
And I think to
Don't
get
think
rid of
that.
respectfully submitted, it was prepared for the Board of Selectmen.
fine with that.
It's going to be submitted on whatever date, and then it was by, and then our names.
Good. Are we ready to adjourn?
I am.
So are we gonna move that this is our final document? I think maybe we should.
I don't think we can until these changes have been made. I would
Okay.
like us all to just see it,
Let's-
make
okay.
sure that the
But
changes came
somewhere along
out
the
and
line, we
that.
have to formalize.
Let's
this,
do
you
that.
know.
We'll keep the same agenda. I mean,
Okay.
of course, subject always to modification, but we'll keep this agenda. So the report's on the agenda next week and that
Okay.
agenda item will be to approve the report
Official, thank you,
with
official,
the
yeah.
changes that have been made.
Fine.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. It is
So
6:41.
does that mean like 1 or 2 more meetings?
Well, it could be one more meeting before the Board of Selectmen. Because
I would, fingers crossed, that would be great.
we do need a meeting to figure out how we're gonna present it. So I, do a little bit of thinking on that over the next week. Think about what how you see that going, and we can discuss that, and that can be the majority of our meeting. And if it doesn't take an hour, no harm. So, but let's plan on convening at 4:30 next Wednesday. All right,
Move to adjourn.
6:42.
6:40, if you don't mind, I'm gonna stop the recording.